please ignore that. What makes a Goblin game? Is it the Goblin? Is it the game? I don't really have an answer, but I did make one, and now that I've updated it, I can finally work on actual content for it, because it has the permanent save system finally. Now, why did it need a new save system? Well, here at Proper Goblin, the unpaid interns who actually made the game decided to use player prefs. This is less than ideal and is really only supposed to be used to save things like video settings and controls. It's called player preferences for a reason, bozos. So to fix this, we're going to have to go in and change the entire save system to work with JSON and encryption. And luckily I found the perfect video to follow along with. It's only half an hour or so it should be a breeze. Anyways, now that that's done, you can start a game that will save that character's data to a file. But currently the game doesn't save the proper data to the file. Now, I'll just have to find and rewrite any and all code that previously saved data and hook it up to this new save system. Life is a hole, and my job is to dig. With the new save system in place, I wanted to add customization, something I wanted for a very long time. But first, I wanted to fix this monstrosity. This model is one I just used from my prototype Goblin game I made like 3 years ago, and it already looks pretty messy on the surface. But making it so you can customize this homunculus was going to be a nightmare, so to make a new one, I used the model I had for the guards and kind of just goblined it up because it had a lot better topology or whatever it's called. I added a new head and I made it green instead of undersuit, and I think he looks a lot better than the original. I went through and added shape keys for the face and his gut, because I know some of you goblins out there be rocking the goblin gut. Everyone knows a goblin's gut shows his stature. It's kind of like how being fat used to mean that you were wealthy, so that was a must represent for my game. I also turned the goblin skin and eyes materials into shaders, so you can now change the skin and eye colors and customize them to whatever you want. After hooking it up to the beautiful save system code, you can now customize, name, and save your goblin. With that done, the game now saves your character's data, it saves their name, their customization, and their progress. It'll even show their progress on the main menu. I'm hoping this will make the game feel a lot more like an RPG and give you an attachment to your goblin. Next, I fixed up the main menu and made actual user interface. Wow, look at me go, what lazy piece of shit. And also added multiple save files, so you don't have to delete your data every time you want to start a new game now. Before updating the game, I wanted to fix some issues. One thing I found while checking why the frame rate was so stinky was that all of the enemies in the game were using this function that checks rigid bodies to see if it's the player, and to make the enemy angry if it is. The problem is that the one I was using checks rigid bodies like every frame they're inside the trigger collider. Obviously this makes the game run like shit, and I'd like people to have computers after they play my game, so I changed it so it only checks this once and then basically throws things out if they're not the player and keeps them if they are. And the game runs a lot better now and functions essentially exactly the same. I also wanted to polish up the environment of the game a bit. Certain areas looked terrible and some looked like I made them in 5 minutes, probably because I did. So I went through and I fixed them up. In the Goblin Pit, I added these destroyed pillars that made the room seem a bit less empty, and the science wing looked really bad, so I redid the entire place to have more consistency and added a toilet. You can't flush it right now, but I might add full functionality in a later update, the toilet update. I added some more details around, like a better floor to the hangar at the end, and sound effects to things like the generator and elevator. The game feels a lot more complete than when I first put it out, and a lot more like my original intention. So going forward, I'd like to focus on making more places and things to do for the game. I'd like to make a larger world that loops back towards the starting area, because I really like designing ways to open shortcuts to previous places. But soon I'm going to have to learn about seamless transitioning, because as it stands, the whole game is in this one scene, and I'd like to add a lot more at some point. I've also made a Discord server for the game, which I will have a link for in the description, and maybe I'll post a comment about it, I don't know, where I'll try and give more updates on it and actually be a little bit more consistent with what the fuck I'm doing. I'm also going to make a video dedicated to that here soon, probably. You can also go on there and give your ideas or suggestions and or just shit on the game if you want, I don't care. The the building a community aspect of making a game is one I'm not familiar with at all, and I'm experimenting with that. So if I do something cringe, please post about it constantly. Well, that's all Papa Goblin has for you today, so get back to bed. You look tired. Yeah, you specifically. I'm talking to you specifically, watching this right now. Go to bed. You're tired. And your lips are dry. You need some chapstick. Hey, don't start licking them now. That's not gonna do much good. Go get some chapstick.